tell us about the sashes, and you supply all these sashes.
I do. Well, I make all different sashes, yes.
And you know how people are quite keen to get it in their own tartan.
Yes.
How easy is that?
Well, we do have 70 tartans in the silk, and then we have tartans in the polycotton. We have about 15 polycotton tartans, and then we have wool. We can get the wool as well, but that is a little bit more expensive. And then hopefully in the future we'll also be doing silk and polyester, which makes them a bit more reasonable. So at the moment there's about 70 tartans to choose from.
And so if somebody wants a tartan, a particular sash, what's the routine? How do they order it? What do they do? All right.
Yeah. Well, they would ring up. I think if they rang me up, that would be the easiest thing, and then we can talk about it and talk about what they want and what they want it made in, how much they want to spend, because that's another thing. We can actually make it to their budget. So if they only want to spend a small amount, we can do something small.
Yeah, and also you work out how tall they are and things like that.
Yes, that's right, yes. It's come in very many different shapes and sizes, and also prices, and they can be quite expensive when you first start to buy a sash. So one of the answers that we do here is we do a very light polycotton in an authentic tartan. This is the ancient Robertson that we actually had woven for the Robertsons. It's a nice long sash, and it's got a nice fullness about it, and we sell that at about £25. So it's a good purchase in that you've got a lot of fabric, but it's not so expensive, quite good. But it's washable, and it looks like a very lightweight wool, because this is rather unusual. This is also in the polycotton again, and these are about £25 to £35, and they're rather pretty because they're a square, and they're fringed all the way around, and they go over the shoulder. Now we also have a wool mixture here, which gives a much heavier finish and heavier drape. Now this, for most people, would be actually too difficult to wear unless you had quite a tall person carrying this. And also lovely actually at a Highland gathering in the winter or something like that, because it actually would be warm as well. And I actually might just demonstrate that, just throw it over my shoulder for a minute. So what you would do is you've got a big square.
Okay.
You would fold it not quite in half. It's what you would call a muddly half, in that you slightly skew-with.
Okay.
Skew-with. And then you take one of your corners here and one of your corners here, but again not too tidily. And then you would put one over your shoulder here, clashing violently with my other tartan, but anyway, one bit over here, and then you would pull the other bit up at the back here and pin it. Pin that there with a beautiful big brooch, and this one up here, remembering to give yourself a bit of room here and pin it there. Now that would be nice at a sort of Highland gathering in the cold, because of course you could always wear it then later on as a stole. And
what clothes would you wear with it?
Well, you could actually wear tweeds with this, or jeans and a jumper, and actually put this over the top if you were going to a gathering.
So you can almost wear anything then?
Absolutely anything. Or you could wear evening wear. And the other thing that's nice about this is if you were going to a wedding or something and you're wearing a suit, a plain dark suit, you could actually jazz it up and make it look really stylish with something like this. But this is quite a big one. This would be for somebody quite tall. But the same version of that is this one, which for a more daintier lady gives the same effect. You see, this would be just a little bit small for me, although I tend to wear this if I'm doing shows or something, and that's quite a nice smaller version.
Okay.
So that's your big squares. This one is a stole sash. Now this is made of silk, and it's very wide, and it's actually double thickness, and that gives it a nice finish. So it's probably not a cheap purchase, that one as well, just because of the amount of silk that's gone into it. And what I do with this is I fold a little bit over the top to make a collar, and you put it over your shoulders, and then ideal again for a wedding, and you could pin it in place if you don't want to feel as if you're losing it all the time. So what you do is at the top you make a sort of collar by folding this top bit over like that, and then put it over your shoulder. Now what I always like to say to my customers is don't look like the peat pickers of the 18th century by doing this, because it's not a flattering look. It might be handy when it's cold, but it's not flattering. So just like off the shoulder here, and a pin. I would put a pin here.
So it could be a brooch or something like that?
Yeah, I would put a nice brooch there. Just like that at the corner. And actually you can swivel it round slightly to the side as well. What you just don't want to do is wear it too bundled.
Okay.
Because it loses its elegance. Now this also, if you're going to buy one of these, you obviously want it to be useful for all sorts of things. So again, you can do the same thing with this one as you did with the other one, is fold it a little bit in half, perhaps keeping it not quite so, this isn't quite as long as the other ones because it's so wide, otherwise it's too much. Concertinering, or the bunching, yes, or the pleating at the top, and then just put that over your shoulder here, And actually you could even just leave it like that. I imagine some very elegant American ladies in New York perhaps going around like this to glittery lunches.
Okay.
So for all the elegant ladies in New York going to glittery lunches, this is ideal. Do buy your silk sash and don't have balls every week to go to. You can actually also just use it in the traditional way for as a scarf and actually just hook it round. And most people know how to do this one, but actually your silk sash does make that as well, underneath your coat. One thing that's quite important is if you have a very fragile blouse or even a very old antique blouse that you don't want to spoil with your nappy pin, then to take a piece of interfacing or a piece of felt or something like that. So we're going to put the interfacing underneath the garment here.
Okay.
And then you put the sash on top, and then you'd put your pin inside underneath by the interfacing, put it through and through. And then that would support your sash and support your blouse. If you had a very delicate blouse, it would stop it pulling on that. And another thing that's quite handy, sometimes people take the sashes away and say, oh, this is so hard work to put the pin through. And the secret of that is to stab it viciously. To stab it from the top, not put it in sideways. Because this, it doesn't like it. So just straight from the top and just stab it straight in. Straight in.